Roseanne was once a refreshing show that brought energy to the funny and relatable life of an American working-class family in the 80s and 90s. However, behind the laughter, many cherished cast members have died in sad ways due to issues like addiction and unexpected tragedies. Let's remember the stars that helped make Roseanne famous and celebrate the legacy they created. Recuerda darle like y suscribirte al canal. Vamos! Glenn Quinn played Mark Healy. He was born Christopher Francis Quinn on May 28, 1970 in Dublin, Ireland. In 1990, at the age of 20, he was chosen for the role of Mark Healy, the rebellious young man who became Becky Connor's boyfriend and later her husband in the popular sitcom Roseanne. With his sad eyes, slightly rebellious smile, and unique Irish charm, Glenn quickly won over many American fans. But there was another side to Glenn behind his success. After moving to the U.S. with his mom and two sisters in 1988, he easily entered Hollywood. Pepsi ads, a Richard Marx music video, and the movie Shout featuring John Travolta and Gwyneth Paltrow. Still, Roseanne was the moment that made him famous. But it also tested him greatly. For 7 years, Glenn had to hide his Irish accent while living in the shadow of Mark. Mark was a popular character, but he also locked Glenn into a specific role. After Roseanne, he had a chance to return to TV in Angel, 1999, a spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, playing Alan Doyle, a half-human, half-demon character. He spoke in his real voice for the first time, but then everything fell apart quickly. The cost of being famous, feeling lonely in a different country, and the stress of acting like the bad boy pushed Glenn into using heroin. Even though he had clear moments, went to rehab, and received support from his family in Ireland, he always went back to the darkness. Colleagues said he would often vanish between scenes, arriving on set confused, kind, but often unsure of where he was. In 1997, he was unofficially removed from Angel because of drug use. At that time, he was staying in motels and had been banned from the Goldfingers nightclub that he used to own. On December 30, 2002, Glenn Quinn was discovered dead from a drug overdose at a friend's house in North Hollywood. He passed away at just 32 years old. His estate was worth about $200,000, which is a sad amount for someone who was once seen as a promising star of American TV. His death surprised the casts of both Roseanne and Angel. In Season 10 of Roseanne 2018, the producers decided not to recast Mark's role as a way to honor him. Shelley Winters como Nana Mary. Shelley Winters, whose real name was Shirley Schrift, was born on August 18, 1920, in St. Louis, Missouri. At 71, she came back to TV as Nana Mary, the quirky but witty grandmother in Roseanne. Even though her role was small, it stood out because of her funny sarcasm and sassy rebellious spirit, which reflected Shelley's true personality. For more than 70 years, Shelley was a memorable name in American movies. She won 2 Academy Awards, 1 Golden Globe, and acted in a range of roles including poor factory girls, evil mothers, attractive icons, and eerie old women. However, her life outside of acting was even more dramatic than any character she portrayed. Shelley had 4 marriages, and all of them ended in sadness. A jealous husband locked her in a closet. Another person rejected her for being too loud and famous. One person, Jerry DeFord. She married just a few hours before she died. She had a daughter named Vittoria with her ex-husband Vittorio Gassman, but their mother-daughter relationship was very troubled and became known to the public. They only made peace towards the end of Shelley's life. Her love life featured famous names like Sean Connery, William Holden, Errol Flynn, and even Marlon Brando. She openly mentioned them all in her memoir, Shelley, also known as Shirley. Besides being famous, Shelley was also a dedicated political activist. She advocated for women's rights in Israel, spoke to protesters in Selma in 1965, and frequently attended Democratic national conventions. However, over time she gradually stepped back from public attention. After a heart attack in 2005, her health worsened quickly. On January 14, 2006, she died at the Beverly Hills Rehabilitation Center at the age of 85. Before that, she quietly married her partner of 19 years in a touching ceremony held at her bedside by actress-turned-minister Sally Kirkland. Shelley Winters was buried at Hillside Memorial Park in California, a final resting place for many Hollywood legends. When she passed away, her net worth was about $10 million, mainly from many years of acting in films and smart, careful real estate investments. Martin Eugene Mall, known as Leon Karp, was born on August 18, 1943, in Chicago. At 48, he acted in Roseanne as Leon Karp, the clever and cold but charming gay boss of the main character. The role lasted 6 years and made him known as the unlikable man you just can't hate. But beneath the humor and sharp gaze, Martin Mall was a person marked by loneliness and emotional challenges. He experienced 2 divorces, both of which were emotionally challenging because of his strong desire for independence and his dislike for traditional norms. Mal openly admitted that he was difficult to live with, too direct, too complicated, and sometimes harsh in his coldness. His last relationship with singer Wendy Haas was mostly stable, but it faced years of strain as he frequently disappeared into his painting studio or spent days in silence, absorbed in his art. In the film industry, Mal was known for being very confident in his knowledge and not allowing any interruptions. He had big disagreements with directors while filming Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which led producers to reduce his time on screen. Some colleagues mentioned that he was hard to work with, impatient, and stubborn, especially when people questioned his artistic vision. Mal frequently spoke out against the entertainment industry, saying that Hollywood values convenience over originality. He continued to work on television and animation projects not only to stay relevant but also to support himself. In his later years, Mal concentrated on painting, a field where he had complete control and didn't need to change his work to sell it more easily. While creating his art, he fought against ongoing lung cancer. In his later years, his health got much worse, and he needed frequent treatments at home. Family members said he didn't want people to see him looking weak, so he turned down visits from many old friends and co-workers. Martin Mull died in Los Angeles on June 27, 2024, at the age of 80. His estate was valued at about $8 million, mainly from royalties from popular shows like Roseanne and Sabrina, as well as paintings collected by art fans and close friends like Steve Martin. Fred Willard played the character Scott, who was the partner of Leon Karp in the show Roseanne. He was born on September 18, 1933, and became recognized for this role when he was 62 years old. Willard was funny, clever, and always brought gentle laughs. He seemed like a national grandpa on TV. But in his real life, he experienced a lot of loneliness, scandal, and pain that most people never saw. His marriage to Mary Lovell lasted more than 50 years and appeared calm, but it had many tense moments. In the 1980s, there were even rumors of a breakup because of work stress and Willard's unpredictable behavior. Close friends remembered that he would sometimes be away from home for weeks, caught up in filming or using alcohol and prescription painkillers. Mary said her husband is friendly when he's happy, and quiet when he's stressed. Her death in 2018 created a gap in Willard that could never be filled. The year 2012 was a major setback for Willard's career. He was arrested at an adult movie theater for suspected inappropriate behavior, damaging his image as a charming comedy figure. Although he was not charged, he was let go from PBS's Market Warriors and his career started to slow down. Willard later said the incident was embarrassing. He agreed to take a sexual education class, but the harm was already done. Many producers avoided him, and both the press and his co-workers criticized him. In his last years, Willard lived a peaceful life and often received treatment for myelitis plastic syndrome and heart disease. Willard's family said he had been using strong painkillers since the early 2000s. His long illness and loneliness after his wife's death caused him to isolate himself even more in his quiet home in Los Angeles. Fred Willard died on May 15, 2020, at the age of 86 from cardiac arrest, with a blood-related illness as a contributing factor. He was buried at Forest Lawn. At the time he died, his net worth was about $10 million, mostly from popular comedies like This Is Spinal Tap, Best in Show, and long-running TV shows. Ned Beatty as Ed Connor. Ned Beatty, born on July 6, 1937, made a lasting mark in TV history by portraying Ed Connor, the father of Dan Connor on Roseanne, when he was 52 years old. With his unique voice and friendly face, Beatty showed the American father as both strict and caring. But beneath his calm look, he was a man who struggled with serious emotional pain, failed marriages, and the loneliness that comes with fame. His big role in Deliverance 1972 made him famous very quickly, but it came with a high price. The disturbing rape scene he experienced on screen troubled him for many years. He later confessed to using alcohol to dull the shame and emotional pain. Although he received critical praise and was nominated for an Oscar for his role in Network 1976, Beatty decided to step back from the spotlight of fame because he was concerned about its costs. He paid it once and never wanted to do it again. Beatty's personal life was marked by many repeated failures. He married 4 times and had 8 children. At least one of his divorces became news because of fights over child custody. A close friend once said he was a caring father, but very quick to anger. This temper caused many of his marriages to fail. His last wife, Sandra Johnson, was the only one who remained with him until the end, but some of his children from earlier marriages had not spoken to him for years. In the 2000s, Beatty's career gradually declined. Although he was still in Shooter, Toy Story 3, and Rango, he stopped looking for big roles. He decided to live a quiet life, away from attention, slowly stepping back from Hollywood's red carpets. Ned Beatty died at his home in Los Angeles on June 13, 2021, at the age of 83. When he died, his net worth was about $5 million, mainly from great works like Deliverance and Network. However, this amount didn't truly show the complete impact he had on the art world. Wings Hauser played Ty Tilden in Roseanne. He was born on December 12, 1947, and first appeared on the show in 1992 when he was 45 years old. His rough appearance, deep voice, and intense eyes made him perfect for playing villains. But away from the camera, Hauser was a free spirit, dealing with deep emotional pain, mistakes, and regrets. Before becoming famous, Hauser lived in a car with his baby daughter in an empty garage. He was homeless, lost, and desperate, and held on to music for support, but his first album turned out to be a big flop. When he started acting, he carried a rough and tough energy, which showed strongly in his breakout role as the crazy pimp Ramrod in Vice Squad, 1982. However, this deep dedication to his roles caused him to struggle with alcohol and drug abuse during the 1980s. He later referred to this difficult period as the clearest I've ever been in the middle of madness. His personal life was also very messy. 3 marriages, including his first divorce from Jane Boltonhouse, left deep emotional wounds. His daughter, Bright, didn't have contact with him for many years. With his second wife, Cass Warner Sperling, he had a son named Cole Hauser, who later became famous in Yellowstone. At one point, their father-son relationship was broken. Cole grew up without his father around, and they didn't make up until he was a teenager. That late reconciliation became one of the few sources of peace for Hauser in his later years. After the early 2000s, Hollywood slowly forgot about Hauser. He lived in quiet and isolation, especially after being diagnosed with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. He carried an oxygen tank, stayed out of interviews, and lived with his last partner, Callie Lilly, in a house by the beach where they took care of an animal sanctuary. Wings Hauser died on March 15, 2025, in Santa Monica at the age of 77, after struggling with illness and depression for a long time. When he died, his net worth was about $3 million, mainly from action movies in the 80s and early 90s, even though he never watched them again. Debbie Reynolds played the role of Audrey Connor. Her full name was Mary Frances Reynolds, and she was born on April 1, 1932. She was on Roseanne in 1997 at the age of 65, playing Audrey Connor, the quirky and emotionally troubled mother of Dan Connor. After starting in A Poor Girl in Texas, Reynolds became famous with Singing in the Rain in 1952, but her personal life was chaotic. She experienced 3 unsuccessful marriages. The first one was with singer Eddie Fisher, which became a national scandal when he left her for Elizabeth Taylor, who was Reynolds' close friend. That cruel betrayal caused her to fall into a deep depression, but for her daughter Carrie Fisher, Reynolds got back up and continued to fight. Her life became even more sorrowful when Carrie, a Star Wars icon, died suddenly from cardiac arrest on December 27. Just one day later, on December 28, 2016, Debbie Reynolds died at the age of 84 from a stroke. Thought to be due to deep sadness, the mother and daughter were buried together at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, creating a beautifully tragic scene that shocked everyone. At the time of her death, her net worth was about $85 million, but a lot of it was lost due to a cheating ex-husband and growing debt from keeping up the movie memorabilia museum she had worked so hard to create. Red Buttons, whose real name was Aaron Schwat, was born on February 5, 1919 in Manhattan. He played the character Jake in Roseanne when he was 74 years old, an isolated old man. He is chatty but represents someone who has experienced all the good and bad times in life. Under his characteristic humor, Red Buttons delivered a very realistic performance. Buttons started working as a bellhop when he was very young. His bright red hair and flashy uniform gave him the nickname Red Buttons, which he kept for his whole career. But behind the stage lights was a young person dealing with hardship and a lack of love. His married life wasn't much better. Tres matrimonios, solo el último. He was married to Alicia Prats until she passed away in 2001. After that, the Buttons changed. He became a loner, living in a retirement home that he had previously advertised on TV as a paradise for old people. Family conflicts weren't just about his marriages. One of his 2 children once said he was like a ghost moving around his own home. Behind his well-known speeches and fits of laughter was a father with a bad temper who got angry easily and struggled to show love. He was once said to have had an improper relationship with a young showgirl, which led Hollywood to avoid him for a while. Later, Buttons had financial problems because of debts from Las Vegas casinos. At one time, he almost lost his Century City apartment, but he was saved at the last moment by a TV commercial deal. The highs and lows of his career often put him in a tense relationship with screenwriters and producers. He is said to have worked with over 80 writers in just a few years. His unpredictable behavior and pride made people distance themselves from him, causing him to become even more alone in his later years. Red Buttons passed away on July 13, 2006 at the age of 87, due to heart problems in his home alone and peacefully. His ashes were given back to the family after the cremation. Once one of America's favorite comedians, he died with an estimated net worth of about $5 million, mainly made from stage performances, film work, and charity shows. John Randolph, whose real name was Emanuel Hirsch Cohen, was born on June 1, 1915 in New York. He joined the show Roseanne in 1989, playing the role of Al Harris, Roseanne's tough father at the age of 74. The character, tough and emotionally distant, revealed the damaged connections in a father-daughter relationship affected by violence and a lack of warmth. The role wasn't just made up, it showed the darker parts of Randolph's real life. At the peak of his abilities, Randolph was put on a blacklist during the McCarthy era because of alleged connections to communism. He and his wife, actress Sarah Cunningham, did not cooperate with the House Un-American Activities Committee and lost all their film and TV contracts. They fell into a financial crisis, depending on off-Broadway jobs and help from friends in the industry. Randolph later acknowledged that this time was very tough for him and even caused a short separation from Sarah, although they stayed together until the end. Although their marriage seemed stable, it still had conflicts. Sarah was very frank, while Randolph carried childhood hurts that never completely went away. He was moody and hard to deal with on set. He once left a Roseanne rehearsal, which made the producers have to help him come back. Still, it was those dark layers that allowed him to portray Al Harris with such raw, unsettling authenticity. Randolph never stopped acting, even into his 80s. In his later years, he appeared in You've Got Mail and various TV series, playing grandfathers, fathers, and thin, wiry figures with powerful inner lives. His net worth was estimated at around $3 million, a reflection of a life devoted to the stage and teaching acting. John Randolph passed away on February 24, 2004 in Hollywood, at the age of 88. Phil Leeds as Grandmama Lily. Phil Leeds, born on April 6, 1916 in the Bronx, New York, appeared in Roseanne in 1993 as Lily when he was 77 years old, a quirky colleague and surprise love interest of Leon in a Halloween-themed episode. Though a minor role, Leeds left a lasting impression with his offbeat charm and an eerily whimsical aura that mirrored his real-life presence. Few knew that Leeds had been a victim of the Red Scare, blacklisted for refusing to cooperate with the House Un-American Activities Committee. His career collapsed just a few years after it began, forcing him to scrape by with backstage jobs. At one point, he worked moving props on the very sets where he once acted, silently watching old friends climb to fame as he was left behind. Those years etched in him a skeptical, withdrawn personality prone to sudden outbursts. Leeds' family life was also tumultuous. His more than 50-year marriage to actress Toby Brandt from 1934 until her death in 1987 was fraught with near breakups due to his frequent temper, social withdrawal, and crisis of faith. After her passing, Leeds sank into a long depression, refused all interviews, and cut ties with most of his old industry friends. A ghost that haunted him to the end was a car accident in the 1970s that resulted in a pedestrian's death. Though he wasn't charged, Leeds lived with deep guilt. Some colleagues said he never forgave himself. That torment was visible in the sorrowful glint in his eyes every time he appeared on screen. Despite being abandoned by Hollywood for years, Phil Leeds eventually found his way back in character roles in Rosemary's Baby Ghost and other sitcoms. In his final years, he kept acting because it was the only place he felt alive. His net worth was estimated at around $2 million, a modest sum for his era, yet the fruit of decades of supporting roles. Tragically, Phil Leeds passed away on August 16, 1998, in Los Angeles from pneumonia at the age of 82. Stan Freberg as Mr. Parkin. Stan Freberg, born on August 7, 1926 in Los Angeles, appeared in Roseanne in 1993 when he was 67 years old, playing Mr. Parkin, a timid bank employee representing the middle-aged class swept up in modern society's chaos. Though just a guest role, he left a deep impression with a performance that was both witty and contemplative, reflecting the man he was in real life. But behind the spotlight were wounds that never healed. Freberg had reached the height of fame with satirical albums and hit radio shows, but everything fell apart in the 1970s when major networks blacklisted him for criticizing the advertising industry. His first marriage to Donna Freeman lasted nearly 40 years, but ended bitterly.